Reporter Elisa Throton is at the New South Wales Rural Fire Service headquarters, and she joins us now. Elle, what are the other areas of major concern for tonight and tomorrow?
Well, it really has been a tough day for firefighters, Jeremy. They had another emergency warning issued at Springwood today. That's, of course, where we've had 300 homes either lost or damaged in the last couple of days. The other areas of concern are going to be, they have been building containment lines out in these areas today, by the way. Those areas are at Balmoral in the Southern Highlands, Wyong, which is north of Sydney, Heatherbrae at Port Stephens and Mount Victoria in the Blue Mountains. I'm now joined by RFS Commissioner Shane Fitzsimmons. Shane, what can we expect over the next couple of days?
Elle, we are really concerned about the next few days, and particularly towards the middle and the end of next week. We're particularly in relation to the weather forecast. It's one thing to be looking ahead at very bad and difficult fire danger ratings, but when you add that across a backdrop of such extraordinary fire, the fire north of the Bellsliner Road or crossing over the Bellsliner Road, it's got a perimeter of more than 200 kilometres. You add that to the Mount Victoria fire, the fire burning through Springwood and Winmalee, and of course the one down in the Southern Highlands through the Catchment and Picton and Bargo. They're doing really good work up in Port Stephens and the Central Coast. The Premier and I visited that area today. We caught up with firefighters on the ground. We had a good look at the air. There's a good deal of confidence that they should be able to get on top of that fire in the coming days, or both of those fires in the coming days. The same can't be said for those other 4 fires, which is why today we saw the emergency warnings elevated and the alerts elevated at the westernmost edge of the Lithgow fire and indeed the easternmost edge around Bilpin for that fire as well, and as you mentioned, the Springwood Winmalee fire. We've got a whole lot of fire, and given the indicative forecast for weather deteriorating and deteriorating potentially quite significantly towards the middle of the week, we've got the likes of Blue Mountains facing one of its biggest fire risks for decades.
Thank you. That's RFS Commissioner Shane Fitzsimmons. Back to you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Elle. In other nearby areas of the Blue Mountains, fire authorities have confirmed 193 homes have been lost in Springwood and Winmalee. The bushfire at Springwood flared up again today as residents who lost their homes on Thursday come to terms with their loss. Injured animals are also needing help, as David Spicer reports.
This is what happens when a fire front meets a backburn. The walls of flames collided out the back of St Columba's School in Springwood. HSC students who've missed exams due to the fire emergency looked on.
Pretty much just like everybody's safe, so that's the main thing.
Today was meant to be the day authorities got on top of the fires in and around Springwood. Despite cooler weather and lighter winds, emergency warnings were reintroduced this afternoon. Residents packed up, ready to flee.
I am packed, I'm ready to go.
As a precaution, 24 patients from Springwood Hospital were transferred to Nepean Hospital.
The fires are continuing, so we just thought it would be best, all round to evacuate the patients now.
Also evacuated was the Winmalee shopping centre. At 2:30, everyone on this street received an official emergency text from the Rural Fire Service warning them to seek shelter from embers as the fire arrives. But not willing to evacuate was the local vet, who has described the last few days as a war zone.
We can evacuate, but we choose not to. We choose to stay and defend the property.
Injured pets are on the mend thanks to some stiff medicine.
And of course he's in seventh heaven, this guy, because he's very heavily, aren't you, mate?
He's stoned. And helping humans back on their feet was Phil Koperberg, the newly appointed Blue Mountains Emergency Recovery Coordinator.
So we're going to provide a conduit between those people who have lost so much in recent days and the agencies that can help them.
David Spicer, ABC News, Springwood.
Still in the Blue Mountains, other residents are returning to what's left of the destruction caused by the bushfires of the previous 2 days. Reporter Jane Margetts has spoken to some of those who now have nothing left.
House after house razed to the ground. The fire ripped through yellow rock fast, forcing residents to run for their lives.
We just thought we were going to die.
And all those firefighters are so brave. They should be happy and thankful. Thank you so much for saving lives.
Catherine Senior left with nothing but the clothes she was wearing. Today she's returned with her children to find only memories left.
I said to my husband, I remember when you carried me across the threshold. I remember having all my babies here. All the hard work that you put into everything for all those years, and it's just gone.
Andrew Charlton stayed to defend his property, but when the water supply was cut off, he stood no chance.
You know, to me, I'm a guy, it's bricks and mortar, but to my wife, I think it's a lot more than that.
Others weren't home when the fire hit. Carol Blair heard the news by phone.
Well, words fail me, really, because it's just something that you'd never dreamed of, even though we live in this bushfire-prone area and we've known of risks. But, you know, you never think it's going to happen to you, do you?
Families have spent the day sifting through the rubble in search of anything that may have survived.
That's devastating. They've been here 42 years. My father built it on a budget, obviously, and I think they were the second house in the street.
Meetings with insurers have already started in some surreal locations.
I got nothing. All I got out was my mother.
For many residents, this is just one of several bushfires they've experienced. But some say this time it's different. People are spooked by how close they came to losing their lives and have decided to move on.
I won't be back here. I mean, many people might rebuild, but I couldn't go through that again.
Rebuilding their lives, starting with the tiniest of belongings. Jane Margetts, ABC News, Yellow Rock.